Alright, so we're going to start on the H project. We're going to get the head pulled off the Super H and get it swapped out for the gas head. We're going to take a look and see what size engine it's actually got in it. And we're going to do some hydraulic upgrades and some other stuff. So you want to make sure you take good pictures of where your wiring goes on here, because you got to take the wiring apart. Make sure you know where your plug wires go. And this one, we got power steering lines we got to take off. You got to take the steering shaft out to get the head off of it. The way I do it is I leave the carburetor on the manifold. We just take the 4 bolts or 6 bolts out that take the manifold off. And that just knocks it out of the way. You just take the 2 screws out, take the tube off. Whole thing comes off one piece. You don't have to worry about anything then. So on this one, you got a quick detach here for the steering shaft. You just take the cap off the end, which is apparently some unknown size that you can't find a wrench that fits. And you just turn the steering shaft and it threads itself out. But in this case, for some reason, this quick disconnect deal here, this coupler, won't fit through the hole in the radiator, so that means we got to drive this roll pin out to get it off the shaft to get it through the radiator. So we got the manifold off. Got the torque motor out for this power steering. The shaft, we can't get this roll pin out easily, so we're just going to leave it for now because it won't go through the radiator. And then they started trying to drain the coolant when the whole tube's unthreading out of the bottom of the radiator. And then this is something you don't see very often. You hardly ever see these dust shields intact. And this one's in really good shape still. But we're gonna have to take this off so we can easily catch the antifreeze, because when as this tube comes out, it's just gonna go all over the place inside this dust shield, and we'll never catch any of it if that's on there still. So I think we're gonna have to take this tire off to really access it correctly. All right, so this is a 8776 DA. So it's a 1943 casting head. You can see because the date code is right there. So it's 20M. M is international speak for 1943. All right, and what we're swapping it out for is this 8043 DC, which is actually an older head. It's an L, which is 42. So that's what we're putting on it. This head came off of the tractor that I parted out specifically to get this head, because this is a gas head, and once I get the other head off, I'll show you the difference in the chamber sizes. So here's our kerosene head, or distillate head. And here's the gas head. So if you take a tape measure, just go like that. We're about 1.25 inches deep. Do the same thing here. We're about, oh, wait a minute here. We're about right at 1 inch. So about 1/4 inch difference in the depth of the chambers. The port sizes appear to be exactly the same, so I've heard people say the port sizes were different, but as far as I can tell, it's just the compression that's different. Got a significant dome on the pistons. I haven't measured the bore yet. See what size bore it is. So it looks like it's a 3.5 inch bore, which is a Super H sleeve size. So we should have a pretty good runner once we get the compression to where it's supposed to be with these dome pistons. So all right, we're gonna get to cleaning things up and get this other head back on. So when putting a head gasket on these, I always spray them with copper coat, which is generic copper coat. And then I'll start on an H, we start at 35, 55, and then the book says 70. I always go a little more, so we'll do either 75 or 80 and go from there. Especially on a motor like this, it's gonna have really high compression with the dome pistons and stuff. And once you've had one blow out with only 100 or 200 hours on it, you really don't want to mess around with these, because it's a real pain to have to take it apart a second time. So I always spray both sides of the gasket. I spray a little bit on the block and a little bit on the bottom of the head around all the coolant stuff and main sealing surfaces. Try not to get it in the cylinder walls. Try not to get it on valves, you know. It will smoke a little funny with that on there. Takes a little while to clean up unless you really put it to work right away. For your torque sequence, you just start in the middle and then work your way out in a circular pattern. You always want to go back and double check yourself, make sure you hit everything. And then I always go back and torque them again once the engine's been hot the first few times. Make sure you get it good and hot to do it though. You know, don't just let it idle for 20 minutes and then try to do it, because these things do not warm up if you try to idle them around the yard. You got to put them out on a load.